The Nevada desert stretched endlessly in every direction as Elena Castellanos's SUV sputtered to a stop, stranding her and her 3 children 20 miles from the forgotten town she had just gambled her last $1 million on. The sky was falling into winter darkness when a lone rider appeared from the shadows, broad hat pulled low, revolvers glinting in the moonlight. His warning was as cold as the desert wind. "Turn back. That town you bought, it belongs to the dead. Mom, are you insane?" Maya's voice cut through the hotel room where Elena had gathered her children to break the news. At 17, Maya Castellanos carried herself with the confident precision of someone already practicing to become a doctor. Her pre-med textbooks lay scattered across the bed, highlighters in 3 colors arranged in perfect alignment. "I had to do something," Elena replied, massaging her temples. "Your father's lawyers have frozen everything else." "But a ghost town?" Diego looked up from his laptop, his fingers still typing as if operating independently from his brain. At 16, his technical brilliance had already attracted attention from top universities. You could have invested in tech stocks or cryptocurrency, something with actual growth potential. Only Sophia, her youngest at 12, showed any enthusiasm. Her hazel eyes, so like Elena's own, sparkled with excitement as she bounced on the hotel bed. "Will there be horses? The desert has wild mustangs, right? Can I have one if we find one?" Elena sank onto the edge of the bed. How could she explain to her children that this wasn't about investment strategy or wild horses? This was about survival. Victor Castellanos wasn't just her ex-husband. He was a pharmaceutical mogul whose empire had been built on fraud, bribery, and cartel money laundering, all facts Elena had discovered 6 months ago while working as the company's research director. The divorce hadn't been about irreconcilable differences. It had been about silencing her before she could testify. 3 of Victor's associates who'd threatened to talk had died in accidents in the past year. A car crash, a home invasion, a swimming pool, electrocution. All ruled misfortunes by investigators on Victor's payroll. "Listen to me," Elena said. "I need you to trust me. This isn't just about money. We need to disappear for a while." Maya's expression shifted from frustration to concern. "Mom, what aren't you telling us? Your father is involved in something dangerous. I found evidence of money laundering through the company, hundreds of millions for the Sinaloa cartel. I've been working with federal investigators, but someone's been compromising witness safety. People who were going to testify have been eliminated." Diego's fingers finally stopped typing. "Are we in witness protection?" "Not officially," Elena admitted. "I don't trust the system right now. There's a leak somewhere. That's why I bought Perdition Valley. It's remote, off the grid. No one will look for a bankrupt divorcee and her kids in an abandoned ghost town." "So we're just running away?" Maya asked. "What about my college applications? My internship at the hospital?" "You can't go to college if you're dead, Maya," Elena snapped. "This is temporary. Once I testify and Victor is arrested, we can rebuild our lives." Diego closed his laptop. "What if he finds us anyway?" Elena pulled out the property documents, spreading them on the bed. Perdition Valley has been abandoned for decades, but the buildings are intact. According to the survey, there's a working well, and the town had its own power system. We can make it habitable, and it's so remote that no one will stumble across us by accident. Sophia picked up one of the property photos. It looks like something from a cowboy movie. It was a silver mining town, Elena explained. Established 1872, abandoned gradually in the 1950s, after the mines dried up. The last residents left in 1956. Maya wasn't convinced. "And what are we supposed to do there?" "We survive," Elena said firmly. "And we prepare. I have evidence secured with my lawyer, a dead man's switch. If anything happens to me, everything goes public. But I need to be alive to testify." Diego's fingers drummed against his laptop. "I can set up satellite internet. We'll need solar panels for reliable power. I've arranged for supplies to be delivered, Elena said. Food, generators, basic necessities. They'll arrive the day after we do. Maya stood up, pacing the hotel room. This is crazy. We're talking about living in a literal ghost town in the middle of nowhere because Dad might be a criminal? Have you considered that maybe you're being paranoid? Elena opened her purse and removed 3 photographs, placing them on the bed. Each showed a crime scene, the aftermath of the accidents that had befallen potential witnesses. These people weren't paranoid enough, she said. Your father's associates in the cartel don't leave loose ends. Maya stared at the photos, her medical training allowing her to see details others might miss. Fine. When do we leave? Dawn, Elena answered. Pack only what you can carry. We need to travel light. That night, as her children slept, Elena stood at the hotel window, gazing out at the glittering Las Vegas skyline. 5 years ago, she'd had everything. A successful career, a seemingly perfect marriage, a beautiful home, 3 brilliant children. Now she was about to drag those children into the desert, running from killers. Her phone vibrated with a text message from an unknown number. Dr. Castellanos, this is Agent Porter. Urgent, we speak before you leave town. Security compromised. Call this number immediately. Elena's heart raced. She had spoken with FBI Agent Porter twice before, but always through official channels, never by personal text. This could be legitimate, or it could be a trap. She deleted the message without responding and removed the battery from her phone. Tomorrow they will be ghosts themselves. The following morning, Elena loaded her children and their meager possessions into her Range Rover, one of the few assets she'd managed to keep in the divorce by arguing it was necessary for the children's safety. The luxury SUV felt out of place in their new reality, but its off-road capabilities would be essential for reaching Perdition Valley. The town is about 6 hours from Las Vegas, Elena explained. The last 40 miles are unpaved desert roads. Diego had already connected his laptop to a portable satellite uplink. I'm downloading offline maps of the area. The cellular coverage drops off completely about halfway there. Maya sat silently in the passenger seat, medical textbooks in her lap, her small act of defiance, a statement that this detour wouldn't derail her future. In the back seat, Sophia had already fallen asleep, her horse encyclopedia clutched to her chest. The Nevada landscape changed dramatically as they drove, from desert scrubland to more rugged terrain with scattered Joshua trees and rock formations rising like sentinels from the barren earth. The temperature dropped as they gained elevation, a reminder that desert winters could be brutally cold. According to these coordinates, Diego said after several hours, we should be about 40 miles from Perdition Valley now. As if on cue, the paved road ended, transitioning to a rutted dirt track. Elena shifted the Range Rover into 4-wheel drive and pressed on, the vehicle jostling over the uneven terrain. Mom, are you sure this is the right way? Maya finally spoke. The auction house provided very specific directions, Elena assured her. The sun began to set, casting long shadows across the desert floor. The temperature plummeted rapidly, and Elena turned up the heater. Sophia awoke, pressing her face against the window to watch the changing colors of the sunset painting the rock formations in hues of gold and crimson. It's beautiful, she whispered. Then came the warning light on the dashboard, engine temperature rising dangerously. Elena tried to nurse the vehicle forward, but within minutes the engine sputtered and died. What's happening? Maya asked. Overheated, Elena replied. Probably radiator damage from the rough road. Diego checked his satellite uplink. We're still 20 miles from Perdition Valley. Can we call for help? Sophia asked. No cell service, Diego confirmed. Night was falling rapidly, and the desert temperature would soon drop well below freezing. They had water and some food, but the Range Rover's heater would only work until the battery died. The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken fear. Elena was about to suggest they bundle up for the night and attempt repairs in the morning when her phone lit up unexpectedly. An incoming call from an unknown local number. How is that possible? She whispered, staring at the device. Don't answer it, Maya warned. It could be tracking software. But before Elena could decide, they heard it, the rhythmic sound of hoofbeats approaching from the direction of Perdition Valley. Through the windshield, they watched as a rider materialized out of the gathering darkness, mounted on a massive black horse. Most alarmingly, twin revolvers hung at his sides, the holsters worn but well-maintained. The figure drew closer, and they could make out details now. A man in a weathered duster coat, broad-brimmed hat pulled low over his face. Up close, Elena guessed he was in his mid-40s, though the lines etched into his sun-weathered face suggested he'd lived those years hard. You folks seem to be having some trouble, he said. He reined his horse to a stop beside their vehicle and dismounted with fluid grace that belied his age. Just an overheated engine, Elena replied. We'll be fine by morning. Are you heading to Perdition Valley? How did you know that? Nobody comes this way otherwise. He removed his hat. Ezekiel Morrison. Most call me Zeke. I patrol these parts. You're law enforcement. Maya used to be sheriff of Copper Springs, 30 miles east. Not anymore. Elena's phone lit up again with the same unknown number. Zeke's eyes flicked to it. That'll be my call. He's special relay system I set up years back. Works when nothing else does. Elena answered cautiously. Hello? Same as in person, ma'am. Zeke's voice came through the speaker, though he stood right outside her window. He pulled a satellite phone from his pocket and ended the call. Just checking if my system's still working. That's quite a setup, Diego commented. Necessary out here. Zeke's eyes narrowed as he studied Elena more carefully. You're her, aren't you? The bankrupt lady who bought the ghost town. Word travels even in the desert. I'm Elena Castellanos. These are my children, Maya, Diego, and Sofia. You brought your kids to Perdition Valley? He shook his head slowly. Turn around, ma'am. Head back to wherever you came from. We can't, Elena replied. You don't understand. Zeke stepped closer, his voice dropping. That place, it ain't empty like they told you. Some debts get paid in blood, and that town's ledger is still open. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the fact that Perdition Valley belongs to the dead, Zeke said, and the living who go there tend to join them. Maya leaned across her mother. Are you threatening us? Warning you, Zeke corrected. That town has secrets buried shallow. Disturb them and those who put them there will come calling. Elena thought of Victor, of the cartel, of the witnesses who had died. We have our own secrets, Mr. Morrison, and our own reasons for needing a place no one would look for us. You're running from something. Or someone. Yes, and you're fool enough to think Perdition Valley is your sanctuary. It wasn't a question. It's what we have. Zeke seemed to come to a decision. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out another satellite phone, older than the one he'd used to call her. He placed it on the hood of the Range Rover. When the wolves come howling, and they will, call this number. Maybe I'll answer. He turned back to his horse. Wait, Elena called. What about our car? Zeke paused. Got tools and water at my cabin. Can probably get you rolling enough to reach town. He mounted his horse with practiced ease. Follow me if you're coming. It's your last chance to make the right choice. Without waiting for a response, he turned his horse and began riding slowly back the way he had come. Mom, this is insane, Maya hissed. That man is clearly dangerous. He's also our only option right now, Elena replied. Diego, grab the emergency kit. Sofia, your warmest coat. We're going with. On horseback? Sofia's face lit up despite the circumstances. No, honey, we're going to try to fix the car. Elena opened her door. But if we can't, at least his cabin will be warmer than spending the night here. They fed her what they needed and began following Zeke, who slowed his pace to allow them to keep up on foot. The desert night enveloped them completely now, their path illuminated only by the moon and stars above, and the small flashlight Diego had brought. How far is your cabin? Elena called ahead. Half-mile, Zeke answered. Used to be an old line shack for the perdition mines. They walked in silence after that, the only sounds their footsteps on the hard-packed earth and the occasional snort from Zeke's horse. The cold intensified, their breath forming small clouds in the frigid air. Finally, a small structure loomed ahead, a simple wooden cabin with a metal roof, a thin plume of smoke rising from its chimney. A battered pickup truck was parked alongside it. "You live here alone?" Elena asked. "Just me and the ghosts," Zeke replied. Inside, the cabin was Spartan but neat. A wood stove in one corner providing both heat and a cooking surface. A narrow bed against one wall, a table with 2 chairs, and shelves lined with books, canned goods, and ammunition. Gun racks held rifles and shotguns, all secured with locks. "You're well armed for an ex-lawman," Diego observed. Zeke shrugged as he stoked the fire. "The desert has its dangers, 2-legged and 4-legged both." He gestured to the table. "Sit, I'll make coffee for the adults, hot chocolate for the girl." While the kettle heated, Zeke gathered tools and a container of water. "First light will fix your radiator enough to get you to town. Can't do much in the dark." Elena watched him move around the cabin, noting the practiced efficiency of every motion. This was a man who lived a stripped-down existence, functional and deliberate. "Why are you helping us if you think we should turn back?" she asked finally. Zeke paused, his back to them, as he stood at the stove. "Because you remind me of someone who didn't get help when she needed it." He turned, his expression unreadable. "And because those kids deserve better than freezing in the desert because their mother's stubborn." Maya bristled. "Our mother is doing her best to protect us. Is she now?" Zeke's pale eyes fixed on Elena. "What exactly are you afraid we'll find in Perdition Valley?" Elena pressed. "Not what you'll find," Zeke corrected. "Who'll find you?" He poured the hot beverages and set them on the table. "Drink up. It's going to be a cold night. You 3 take the bed. I'll keep watch." "Keep watch for what?" Diego asked. "Same things you're running from, I expect." Elena's blood ran cold. How could you possibly know that? Lady buys a ghost town in the middle of nowhere, shows up with 3 kids, and desperation in her eyes. Zeke gave a humorless smile. "You're either running or hiding. Maybe both." "And you?" Elena challenged. "What's an ex-sheriff doing living in an isolated cabin, armed to the teeth?" "The same as you. Running, hiding. Maybe both." He moved to the window, peering out into the darkness. "Get some rest. Dawn comes early in the desert." As her children settled uncomfortably onto the narrow bed, Elena joined Zeke by the window. Outside, the moonlight cast the desert in silvery relief, beautiful and deadly. "Those revolvers," she said quietly. "They're not just for show, are they?" 1873. "Colt, peacemakers," Zeke replied. "My great-grandfather's. He was a lawman, too." "Is that why they call you the Gunslinger? In town, I mean." "They call me that because I've used these guns more recently than most men use century-old revolvers." "Now, get some sleep, Dr. Castellanos." "How did you know I'm a doctor?" "Like I said," Zeke answered, his eyes still fixed on the moonlit desert. "Word travels, even in the desert." True to his word, Zeke had them ready to depart at first light. He'd patched the Range Rover's radiator with a temporary fix, refilled it with water, and provided them with extra containers in case they needed to repeat the process before reaching Perdition Valley. "This'll get you there," he said, wiping his hands on a rag as the engine idled smoothly. "But it won't get you back out. You'll need proper repairs for that." "Thank you," Elena said. "Don't thank me for helping you walk into trouble." He handed her a hand-drawn map. "Town's laid out like this. Biggest building, can't miss it. That'll be yours now, I reckon. You seem to know the town well for someone who warns people away from it," Diego observed. "Knowing your enemy's territory is just good sense." He tipped his hat to them. "Good luck, Castellanos family. You're gonna need it." They watched as he mounted his horse and rode off in the opposite direction from Perdition Valley, disappearing quickly into the desert landscape. "Well, he was creepy," Maya muttered. "He helped us," Sophia pointed out. And his horse was beautiful. Focus, please, Elena said. According to this, we should reach Perdition Valley in about 2 hours if we don't have any more car troubles. The journey proved uneventful, though tension built within the vehicle as they drew closer to their destination. The landscape became increasingly dramatic. Rock formations rose like cathedral spires from the desert floor, and distant mountains created a natural fortress around the valley they were approaching. There, Sophia suddenly called out, pointing ahead, "I see buildings." Elena slowed the Range Rover as Perdition Valley came into view. Unlike the ramshackle ruins she had expected, the town appeared remarkably intact. A perfectly preserved slice of the Old West, nestled in a small valley between rocky outcroppings. Victorian-style buildings lined a main street, their facades weathered but standing proud. A white church steeple rose above the other structures, gleaming in the morning sun. Beyond the commercial district, they could make out residential streets with small houses arranged in neat rows. They drove slowly down the main street, the Range Rover's tires crunching on gravel that showed no weeds or desert plants breaking through. Another oddity for a supposedly abandoned town. "It looks maintained," Maya said. Elena frowned. The auction listing said it was abandoned in the 1950s. Maybe historical preservationists have been taking care of it, Diego suggested. Elena parked in front of what was clearly the town hall, a 2-story building with a small clock tower. The clock was stopped at 3, its hands frozen in time. "This is weird," Maya said as they climbed out, stretching after the long drive. "It doesn't feel abandoned. It feels paused." Elena had to agree. There was none of the decay one would expect from 7 decades of desert exposure. The windows were intact, the paint faded but not peeling catastrophically. Even the wooden boardwalks that fronted the buildings appeared solid. "Let's find the mayor's house," Elena decided. They walked rather than drove, all of them eager to stretch their legs after the journey. Sophia skipped ahead, her earlier fears forgotten in the adventure of exploring their new home. Diego documented everything with his phone camera, while Maya maintained a skeptical distance, as if unwilling to accept this ghost town as their reality. The mayor's house was impossible to miss. A grand Victorian mansion set back from the street, complete with a wraparound porch, turrets, and ornate gingerbread trim. A wrought iron fence surrounded the property, the gate hanging slightly open as if inviting them in. "It's beautiful," Sophia breathed. "It's also in suspiciously good condition," Maya noted. Elena pushed the gate open wider, and they proceeded up the walkway to the front door. To her surprise, a brass key hung from a nail beside the entrance, with a small note attached. "For the new owner. Welcome to Perdition Valley." "Okay, that's definitely strange," Diego said. Elena removed the key and examined it. Heavy, ornate, and apparently recently polished. Maybe the auction house representatives? They would have been here to inventory the property. Or maybe the creepy gunslinger, Maya suggested. Elena inserted the key into the lock, and it turned smoothly. The door swung open without a creak, revealing an interior that defied all expectations of an abandoned building. The foyer featured a grand staircase, marble flooring, and a crystal chandelier. Furniture draped with white sheets created ghostly silhouettes throughout the visible rooms. But most shocking was the complete absence of dust or desert sand, a physical impossibility for a truly abandoned structure in this environment. "Someone's been here," Elena said quietly. They moved cautiously through the house, removing sheets to reveal period furniture in excellent condition. The kitchen contained an antique stove and icebox, alongside more modern additions, a propane refrigerator and camping cook stove that looked no more than a few years old. "Mom," Diego called from what appeared to be a study. Elena joined him before an ornate fireplace mantel, where a collection of framed photographs stood. Most were sepia-toned images of stern-faced men and women in late 19th century attire, presumably former mayors and their families, but among them were color photographs of more recent vintage, and featured prominently was a picture that made Elena's blood run cold. Zeke Morrison smiling beside a beautiful dark-haired woman and a young girl of about 10. "That's our gunslinger," Diego said unnecessarily. Elena picked up the frame, examining it closely. The photograph couldn't be more than 5 years old. On the back was written Sheriff Morrison with Catherine and Annie, Founders Day 2018. Sheriff? Maya had joined them. He said he used to be a sheriff, but this is dated just 5 years ago. And why is his family picture in the mayor's house? Elena wondered aloud. "Mom," Sophia's excited voice echoed from upstairs, "there are bedrooms for all of us, and they have beds with real mattresses." Elena replaced the photograph, her unease growing. "Let's check out the rest of the town before we unpack. I want to know exactly what we've bought." They split up to cover more ground, agreeing to meet back at the mansion in 2 hours. Maya headed for what appeared to be a doctor's office. Her medical curiosity piqued. Diego wanted to investigate the town's infrastructure, power, water, and potential internet connectivity. Sophia, predictably, made a beeline for the stables they'd spotted at the edge of town. Elena chose to explore the town hall first, hoping to find records that might explain Perdition Valley's unusual state of preservation. The town hall's interior was as well maintained as the mayor's house, with polished wooden floors and walls lined with portraits of stern-faced men, previous mayors, she assumed. The clerk's office contained filing cabinets that yielded property records, town ordinances, and meeting minutes, the newest dating from 1956, consistent with the town's supposed abandonment. But in the mayor's office, Elena found something far more disturbing: a modern laptop computer, closed but plugged into a power strip connected to what appeared to be a small generator hidden behind the desk. The machine was password protected, but its very presence was alarming. She continued her exploration, finding more inconsistencies with each building she entered. The general store contained shelves of canned goods with expiration dates from the current year. The post office had a calendar on the wall marked with dates from just 3 months earlier. By the time they reconvened at the mansion, Elena's concern had deepened into genuine alarm. Her children's discoveries only heightened her unease. "The doctor's office is fully stocked," Maya reported. "Modern antibiotics, surgical supplies, even a portable X-ray machine. None of it is expired. Someone's been maintaining a complete medical facility here." "The stables have been used recently," Sophia added excitedly. "There's fresh hay in the stalls, and the water troughs were clean enough that I filled them for any horses that might come." Diego's findings were the most troubling. There's a sophisticated electrical system throughout the town, powered by solar panels hidden on the north-facing roofs where they're not visible from the main street. The water system is operational. There's a modern pumping station disguised inside the old water tower. And I found this. He held up a small electronic device. It's a wireless access point, part of a mesh network covering the entire town. Whoever set this up wanted high-speed internet without satellite dishes or visible antennas. Elena shared her own discoveries, including the laptop and recently stocked supplies. This town wasn't abandoned in the 1950s, she concluded. Or, if it was, someone has been using it recently and going to extraordinary lengths to make it appear deserted to casual observation. "But why?" Maya asked. "Privacy," Diego suggested. "Or secrecy. This setup would allow people to live here comfortably while the town appeared abandoned to satellites or flyovers. Or it could be a government installation," Maya offered. Elena thought of Victor, of the cartel, of Zeke's warning about debts paid in blood. A terrible suspicion was forming in her mind. "I need to check one more place," she said. "Diego, bring your phone." "Maya, your medical expertise might be needed." "What about me?" Sophia asked. "Stay here, sweetheart. Lock the doors until we return." "But no arguments," Elena said firmly. The church stood at the far end of town, its white steeple gleaming innocently in the afternoon sun. Unlike the other buildings, its doors were secured with a heavy padlock. Elena examined it closely. "This is new," she observed. and it's been used frequently. Look at the wear marks on the hasp. Diego produced a small toolkit from his pocket. I can probably pick it. Elena hesitated. Breaking into a church felt wrong on multiple levels, but her instincts were screaming that answers lay within. Do it. Diego made quick work of the lock, and the heavy wooden doors swung open to reveal a perfectly ordinary church interior. Pews, altar, stained glass windows casting colored light across the worn wooden floor. It looks normal, Maya whispered. Too normal, Elena replied, like a movie set version of a church. She moved to the altar, examining it closely. This cloth is new. The candles have barely burned. Diego was checking the walls and floors. There's a basement, he announced, pointing to a door partly hidden behind the pulpit, and unlike that front padlock, this has an electronic keypad. Elena joined him, examining the modern security system incongruously attached to the antique door. Can you bypass it? Maybe. But it might trigger an alarm. Elena considered their options. If this was indeed connected to the cartel, triggering an alarm could bring dangerous attention. But they needed answers. Do it, she decided. Diego worked methodically, connecting his phone to the keypad through a cable from his toolkit. After several tense minutes, the lock clicked open without any audible alarm. The door revealed a steep staircase descending into darkness. Elena used her phone's flashlight to illuminate their way down the narrow steps. The temperature dropped noticeably as they descended. The basement was nothing like the quaint church above. Concrete floors had replaced the original dirt or stone. Fluorescent lights flickered on automatically, triggered by motion sensors, and the equipment lining the walls made Elena's stomach turn. Industrial-grade plastic sheeting divided the space into sections. Stainless steel tables with drains dominated the central area. Along one wall stood commercial refrigeration units, beside shelves stocked with industrial chemicals, concentrated acids, solvents, and cleaning compounds. Most telling were the specially designed drainage systems built into the floor, all leading to a central collection tank that could be emptied via a pumping system. Maya, with her medical training, understood immediately. This is a processing facility, she said. For bodies. Diego examined one of the steel tables. These are designed for complete fluid collection and drainage. The surface is resistant to both organic matter and strong chemicals. Elena moved to a filing cabinet in the corner, forcing the locked drawer open with a pry bar that had been left nearby. Inside were meticulous records, dates, names, and methods of processing. This town isn't abandoned, she said. It's a cleaning station for the cartel. They bring people here to eliminate them and dispose of their bodies. Maya picked up one of the logs. Some of these dates are from just 3 weeks ago. Names, times, chemical quantities used. Her voice broke. Mom, we've bought a mass murder site. The sound of an engine outside froze them in place. Headlights swept across the basement windows set high in the walls. Someone's here, Diego whispered. Elena quickly replaced the logbook and closed the drawer. Upstairs. Now, we need to get back to Sofia. They extinguished their lights and crept back up the stairs, carefully relocking the basement door. Through the church's windows, they could see a black SUV with tinted windows parked in front of the town hall. That's not our delivery, Elena said. The supplies she'd arranged weren't due until the following day. What do we do? Maya asked. Elena thought of Sofia, alone in the mayor's house, of the cartel's cleaning facility beneath their feet, of Zeke's warning about wolves coming to howl. We get to Sofia, she said. Then we call Zeke. They slipped out the church's side door, keeping to the shadows between buildings as they made their way back toward the mayor's house. The black SUV remained parked in front of the town hall, but they could now see 2 men in dark suits examining the exterior of the building. They look like government agents, Diego whispered, or cartel enforcers dressed to look like agents, Elena countered. They used the alleyways between buildings, moving as quietly as possible across the gravel. The mayor's house came into view, its windows dark except for a faint glow from upstairs. Sophia must have turned on a light as the afternoon waned into evening. "The back door," Elena directed. Well, the distinctive click of a firearm being cocked froze them in place. "That's far enough," came a man's voice from behind them, smooth, educated, with just a hint of Latin accent. "Hands where I can see them, please." Elena turned slowly, raising her hands. A tall man in an immaculate charcoal suit stood 10 feet away, a silenced handgun held casually at his side. Unlike the men at the town hall, he wore no pretense of being a government agent. His tailored clothing, elegant leather shoes, and the diamond-studded watch on his wrist all screamed cartel money. "Marco Vega," he introduced himself with a slight bow. "My associates call me El Limpiador, the cleaner, and you, Dr. Castellanos, have purchased my operational headquarters without permission." Maya and Diego had raised their hands as well, standing protectively close to their mother. "We didn't know," Elena said. "The auction listing said it was abandoned." Marco smiled thinly. "A necessary fiction. Perdition Valley serves a vital function for my employers. It allows us to process problems efficiently without leaving evidence." He gestured with his free hand toward the church. "But you've already discovered that, haven't you?" "We haven't seen anything," Maya interjected quickly. "The lock on the church basement has been tampered with. The logbook was moved approximately 3 centimeters from its usual position, and there are fresh footprints in dust that were undisturbed this morning." He shrugged elegantly. "Details matter in my profession." The 2 men from the town hall approached, flanking Marco. One carried a tablet, which he handed to his boss. Marco glanced at the screen, his eyebrows rising slightly. "Well, this is an unexpected pleasure," he said, looking back at Elena with new interest. "It seems you're not just any inconvenient purchaser, Dr. Castellanos. You're the whistleblower preparing to testify against Victor Castellanos and our financial infrastructure." He chuckled softly. "The woman we've been hunting for months has delivered herself directly to our processing facility. The universe has a sense of humor, doesn't it?" Elena felt her blood turn to ice. "How did you know that?" "Facial recognition. My associates at the DEA, the compromised ones, of course, have been monitoring airports, hotels, and traffic cameras for you since you disappeared from protective custody. When our security system detected activity in town, it automatically photographed you and ran the images through our database." "You have someone inside the DEA," Elena said. "That's how the witnesses were found." "We have people everywhere, Doctor. Your ex-husband's pharmaceutical distribution network provided excellent cover for our financial operations and extraordinary access to government contracts. The arrangement was mutually beneficial until you discovered it." Marco gestured toward the mayor's house with his gun. "Now, shall we collect your youngest child and move this conversation indoors? The desert gets quite cold after sunset." Elena's maternal instinct surged. "Leave Sophia out of this." "I'm afraid that's impossible," Marco replied. "My instructions regarding your family are quite specific. Victor was most insistent." "Victor ordered you to kill his own children?" The words felt like broken glass in Elena's throat. "Your ex-husband is a pragmatic man," Marco said with a shrug. "The children know too much, have heard too much. And there's the matter of inheritance. Your testimony threatens not just his freedom, but his entire financial empire. Without heirs, his secondary holdings in Europe remain secure from seizure." Diego stepped slightly forward. "Our father sent you to murder us for his money? You're the tech prodigy, yes? Victor mentioned you might have talents worth evaluating before processing. The cartel's cybersecurity division is always seeking fresh talent. I'd rather die. That option remains on the table," Marco assured him mildly. "Now move toward the house, please. My men will escort you." They had no choice but to comply, walking slowly toward the mayor's mansion with Marco's men close behind them. Elena's mind raced desperately for a way out. The satellite phone Zeke had given them was in her jacket pocket, but she had no opportunity to use it without being seen. As they approached the house, the front door suddenly flew open. Sophia stood in the doorway, her expression a mixture of fear and defiance. Mom, there are men with guns outside. Sophia, get back inside, Elena shouted. But it was too late. One of Marco's men lunged forward, grabbing Sophia before she could retreat. The girl screamed and kicked, landing a solid blow to her captor's shin that made him curse in Spanish. Spirited, Marco observed as they were all herded into the mansion's foyer. The horse-loving daughter, I presume? Victor mentioned she was the most like you, Dr. Castellanos. Inside, Marco directed his men to secure the family in the parlor, a formal sitting room with antique furniture and large windows overlooking the front garden. One guard remained at the door while Marco and the other man conducted a thorough search of the house. Elena held Sophia close, trying to project a calm she didn't feel. Maya paced anxiously while Diego sat unnaturally still, his eyes constantly scanning the room as if calculating angles and distances. What do they want? Sophia whispered. They work for Dad, Maya answered. He sent them to kill us because Mom was going to testify against him. Sophia's eyes widened. Dad wants us dead? For money? We don't know that for certain. Elena tried to soften the blow. Stop lying to protect him, Maya snapped. Victor Castellanos is a monster who launders money for drug cartels. He's been ordering hits on people, and now we're on his list. Sophia deserves to know the truth. Marco returned before the argument could escalate further. He had removed his suit jacket and rolled up his sleeves, a man preparing for work. Your home has excellent security features, Dr. Castellanos, he remarked. 2-foot-thick walls, reinforced doors, and a panic room hidden behind the library shelving. The mayor who built this place in 1890 was apparently concerned about bank robbers. Unfortunately for you, the security system works both ways. Once engaged, the shutters and door locks will prevent anyone from leaving without the proper codes. As if on cue, metal shutters slid down over the windows with a mechanical whir, and they heard the distinctive sound of heavy bolts sliding into place throughout the house. There, Marco said with satisfaction. Now we can discuss your situation without interruption. There's nothing to discuss, Elena replied. You're here to kill us. Redsure, yes. But I'm not a barbaric man, Dr. Castellanos. I'm a professional with standards and procedures. He gestured to the laptop. Before any processing occurs, I need to verify certain information and secure any evidence you might have distributed. He turned the screen toward her, showing a document with legal language. This is a retraction of your testimony, admitting that you fabricated evidence against your ex-husband due to bitterness over your divorce. Once signed electronically, it will be distributed to the FBI, DEA, and relevant prosecutors. You can't seriously expect me to sign that. I don't, Marco admitted, but offering the option is part of my protocol. Similarly, I need to know about your so-called dead man switch, the evidence you've arranged to have released if you disappear. Marco sighed. Dr. Castellanos, there are two ways we can proceed. The first is civilized. You tell me what I need to know. I complete my work quickly and humanely. The second involves methods I take no pleasure in, but which are very effective. His eyes moved meaningfully to her children, starting with the youngest, typically. You're a monster, Maya hissed. I'm an employee, Marco corrected. And quite good at what I do. He withdrew a syringe from his pocket. This, for instance, is a compound derived from your ex-husband's pharmaceutical research, a modified benzodiazepine that induces extreme suggestibility while maintaining consciousness. Very useful for extracting information. He rolled the syringe between his fingers. Who shall we start with? Perhaps the tech genius? He might know details about your evidence storage systems. Elena moved to stand between Marco and her children. My lawyer has everything, Stuart Langley in Phoenix. If I don't check in every 48 hours, he releases digital packets to 20 different news organizations and law enforcement agencies. Thank you for that confirmation. Mr. Langley has already been located. Elena's heart sank. She had revealed their last protection in a desperate attempt to save her children from immediate harm. You're lying, she challenged, trying to recover. Perhaps, Marco conceded, But we have time to deal with Mr. Langley. First, we need to address a more immediate concern. He nodded to the guard at the door. Bring the equipment from the SUV. Standard processing kit. As the man left, Marco turned his attention to the children. You three present an interesting dilemma. Normally, witnesses are simply processed according to protocol, but each of you has potential value to the organization. He pointed to Maya. Medical expertise is always useful. Our field surgeons require discreet assistance. To Diego, your technical abilities could strengthen our cybersecurity significantly. And finally to Sophia, even the young equestrian might serve purposes at our transportation hubs, where horses are still used for border crossings. Will never work for you, Maya declared. Most say that initially, Marco acknowledged. But the combination of incentives and chemical persuasion usually overcomes resistance. Your father adapted quite readily to our methods, after all. A sudden loud thud from upstairs interrupted the conversation. Marco frowned, drawing his silenced pistol again. Montez, he called to his remaining guard. Check the second floor. The guard drew his weapon and moved cautiously toward the staircase. He had just reached the bottom step when a deafening gunshot rang out, and he collapsed with a bullet hole in his chest. Marco reacted instantly, overturning the heavy coffee table to create cover, dragging Elena down behind it, and pressing his gun to her temple. Not a sound, he hissed. Let the family go, Vega. Your quarrels with me. Zeke Morrison stepped into view at the top of the stairs, one of his antique Colt revolvers smoking in his hand. He wore the same weathered duster coat, but his posture had changed. The weary drifter replaced by a man who radiated lethal purpose. Sheriff Morrison, Marco responded. Still haunting Perdition Valley, I see. I thought you'd learned your lesson last time. I'm a slow learner, Zeke replied, but I remember the important things, like what your organization did to Catherine and Annie. Marco's expression revealed nothing, but Elena felt him tense slightly at the mention of the names. Business, nothing more. Your wife and daughter witnessed something they shouldn't have. Protocol dictated the response. They were innocent, Zeke said. Collateral damage occurs in any operation, Marco shrugged. Now, lower your antique weapon, or Dr. Castellanos joins your family. You'll kill her anyway, Zeke said. True, but I can make it quick or I can make it last days. Her children, too. You remember how that works, don't you, Sheriff? Something dark and pained flickered across Zeke's face. Elena realized with horror what Marco was implying. Zeke had witnessed his family's processing in this very town. I remember, Zeke said. I also remember your man Ortiz bragging that my daughter took 3 days to die. A professional never rushes their work, Marco replied. Now put down the gun or watch history repeat itself. The standoff stretched for several excruciating seconds. Then, slowly, Zeke lowered his revolver. Wise choice, Marco said. Now kick it down the stairs. Zeke complied, the heavy revolver clattering down the wooden steps. But as Marco's attention shifted momentarily to the weapon, Zeke's hand moved in a blur, drawing the second Colt from its holster and firing in one smooth motion. The bullet struck Marco's shoulder, spinning him away from Elena. She seized the opportunity, diving toward her children while Zeke bounded down the stairs with surprising agility for a man his age. Marco recovered quickly, firing his silenced pistol twice. One bullet splintered the banister beside Zeke, but the second found its mark, tearing through the gunslinger's side. Zeke grunted in pain, but kept moving, tackling Marco before he could take aim at the family. The two men crashed into an antique sideboard, sending crystal decanters and glasses shattering across the floor. Run, Zeke shouted. Elena hesitated, unwilling to leave their rescuer. Diego, the shutters! Her son was already at the laptop Marco had left open, his fingers flying across the keyboard. Working on it, the systems locked down. Marco slammed his elbow into Zeke's wounded side, causing the older man to cry out in pain. Using the moment's advantage, Marco wrenched free and aimed his gun at Zeke's head. Elena acted instinctively, grabbing a heavy crystal decanter from the floor and smashing it against Marco's injured shoulder. He howled in agony, his gun discharging harmlessly into the ceiling. Zeke seized the opportunity, delivering a crushing blow to Marco's jaw that sent the cartel cleaner sprawling. In the same motion, he scooped up his fallen Colt revolver from the stairs. "Behind you," Maya screamed. The front door burst open, revealing the guard Marco had sent to retrieve equipment. The man assessed the situation in an instant and raised an assault rifle. Two thunderous shots rang out almost simultaneously, Zeke's Colt and the guard's rifle. The guard collapsed in the doorway, a neat hole in his forehead, but Zeke staggered backward, fresh blood blooming across his chest. "Mr. Morrison," Sophia cried out. Zeke steadied himself against the staircase, his breathing labored. "Check Vega," he gasped to Elena. "Don't trust appearances." Elena cautiously approached Marco's still form. The cartel cleaner lay face down, unmoving, blood pooling beneath him from the shoulder wound. She carefully kicked his gun away before checking for a pulse. "He's alive," she reported. "Tie him up," Zeke directed. "Tight. He's trained to dislocate joints to escape restraints." Maya had already rushed to Zeke's side, her medical training taking over. "You need immediate treatment. These wounds are serious." "Later," Zeke growled. "First, we secure the house." "Diego, the shutters? The security system is encrypted," Diego replied. "But there's a manual override somewhere in the house. Probably in the panic room Marco mentioned." "Library," Zeke confirmed. "Behind the copy of Moby Dick on the third shelf, pulls out like a lever." Elena hurried to the library, finding the massive leather-bound copy of Melville's classic exactly where Zeke had indicated. When pulled, it triggered a mechanism that caused an entire section of shelving to swing outward, revealing a small fortified room beyond. Inside the panic room, a control panel showed the status of every security feature in the house. Elena found the master override and deactivated the system, hearing the shutters retract and locks disengage throughout the mansion. When she returned to the foyer, Maya had helped Zeke to a sitting position against the wall. His face was ashen, his breathing shallow. "We need to get him to the doctor's office," Maya said urgently. "I saw surgical supplies there. I can remove the bullet and treat these wounds." "But not here. Not safe," Zeke objected weakly. "Vega never works alone. More will come when he doesn't report in." "How much time do we have?" Elena asked. "Protocol is check-in every 6 hours, Zeke writ. The last one would have been when they arrived, so maybe 5 hours, give or take." Diego looked up from the laptop. "I've got access to the security system. There are cameras throughout the town and motion sensors at all approach roads. We'll have a warning if anyone comes." Elena made a quick decision. "Maya, you and I will take Zeke to the doctor's office. Diego, keep monitoring those cameras. Sophia stays with you. Barricade yourselves in the panic room if there's any sign of trouble." "What about him?" Diego nodded toward Marco's unconscious form, now securely bound to a heavy chair with electrical cords and neckties they'd found in a closet. "Bring him too," Zeke said unexpectedly. It took all 4 of them to transport the wounded gunslinger and unconscious cartel cleaner to the doctor's office 2 blocks away. They used a wheelbarrow from behind the general store for Zeke, who was too weak to walk far, and carried Marco on a makeshift stretcher fashioned from a door taken off its hinges. The doctor's office was as Maya had described, a fully equipped modern medical facility disguised within the shell of a 19th century building. "Diego, back to the mansion with Sophia," Elena directed. "Lock yourselves in and keep watching those cameras." They secured Marco to an examination table with leather restraints, obviously meant for unwilling patients, while Maya helped Zeke onto the main surgical table. "Call us at the first sign of trouble." She handed her son the satellite phone Zeke had given them. After her children left, Elena assisted Maya in treating Zeke's wounds. The gunslinger remained stoically silent, as Maya extracted the bullet from his chest and stitched the wound closed. "You're lucky," Maya told him. "The bullet missed your heart by centimeters, and the side wound is a through and through. No major organs hit." "Doesn't feel lucky," Zeke grunted. "Why did you come back?" Elena asked. "You warned us to leave. You could have stayed away." Zeke's pale eyes met hers. "Told you to call if the wolves came." "You didn't call. We didn't have time," Elena explained. "I know," Zeke said. "I've been watching. Always watch when newcomers arrive in Perdition Valley. Most don't last long." While Maya finished treating Zeke's wounds, Elena checked on Marco. "He's waking up," she warned. Zeke struggled to sit upright, despite Maya's objections. "Careful, he's more dangerous than most men are armed." Marco's eyes opened fully, instantly alert and assessing his situation. He tested the restraints subtly, his expression revealing nothing. "Don't bother," Zeke told him. "Those are your own restraints. You designed them to hold people during processing." "Ironic," Marco acknowledged. "Though this merely delays the inevitable, Sheriff. When I fail to check in, my associates will come. The protocol is quite clear." "So is mine," Zeke replied coldly, reaching for his revolver. Elena stepped between them. "No, we need information from him first." "Information?" Marco laughed softly. "Dr. Castellanos, I'm a professional. I've been trained to resist interrogation methods you can't even imagine, let alone implement." "I don't need torture," Elena said. "Just answers. Why is my ex-husband so desperate to silence me? The money laundering evidence is already with my lawyer. Killing me won't stop its release. You really don't know, do you?" He smiled thinly. "Money laundering is merely a footnote. Your true threat lies in what you discovered about Project Chimera." Project Chimera was a failed pain management drug. The trials were discontinued due to severe side effects. "The public trials, yes," Marco agreed. "But the private research continued under Victor's direct supervision. Your access to the company's secure servers would have shown you the real data." A chill ran through Elena as fragments of memory connected. She had found unusual server directories during her investigation, but had focused on the financial records that proved money laundering. "What was Chimera really?" she asked. "A neuropharmaceutical marvel," Marco replied, "designed to target specific pain receptors, but modified to affect memory centers as well. In its refined form, it allows for precise memory manipulation, creating gaps, implanting false memories, or enhancing recall of specific details." "Brainwashing drugs," Zeke growled. "Crude, but essentially correct," Marco nodded. "Imagine the applications. Witnesses who suddenly remember events differently. Operatives who can't recall their handlers even under truth serum. Informants who genuinely believe they never spoke to authorities." "My God," Maya whispered. "Hence the secrecy," Marco said. "Victor's contribution to our partnership goes far beyond merely washing money. He provides tools that make our work virtually undetectable." Elena's mind raced. This was far worse than she had imagined, not just financial crimes, but chemical warfare against human memory itself. "You're using Perdition Valley to test these drugs on your victims," she realized aloud. "That's why you need medical facilities and detailed records." "Very good, Doctor," Marco inclined his head slightly. "The processing protocols here include experimental phases to refine the compounds. The subjects are going to die anyway, so they provide excellent trial data without the inconvenience of regulatory oversight." Zeke's expression had darkened to something murderous. "You tested it on my wife and daughter." For the first time, Marco looked uncomfortable. "Protocol dictated. Don't hide behind protocol," Zeke snarled. "Your wife responded poorly to the treatment," Marco admitted. "But your daughter showed remarkable resilience. Her data significantly advanced the research." Zeke lunged from the table, despite his wounds, only Maya's intervention preventing him from reaching Marco. Stop, she urged. He's baiting you. He wants you to kill him quickly rather than face justice. There will be no justice, Marco said calmly. Not through your courts. My organization has judges and prosecutors on payroll throughout the Southwest. I would never see a trial, and if by some miracle I did, no evidence would be admissible. He's right, Elena acknowledged bitterly. The corruption goes too deep, then we deliver frontier justice, Zeke said, his voice deadly quiet. Like they did in Perdition Valley when it was founded. Trial by citizen jury, sentence carried out immediately. The satellite phone rang before the argument could continue. Elena answered to hear Diego's urgent voice. Mom, the motion sensors at the North Approach Road just activated. 3 vehicles heading toward town, heavy SUVs by the weight distribution. ETA 15 minutes. Reinforcements, Marco said. Elena looked at Zeke. Can we run? He shook his head. Not with my injuries. And they'll have the roads blocked. Then we fight, Elena decided. The next 15 minutes passed in a blur of desperate preparation. Elena and Maya helped Zeke back to the mayor's mansion, where Diego had already begun turning the historic building into a defensible position. I've accessed the town's security systems, the teenager explained, showing them the laptop screen where multiple camera feeds were displayed. There are defensive measures built in that weren't on the main control panel. Probably hidden protocols for the cartel's use. What kind of measures? Elena asked. Remote-triggered barriers on the approach roads, deployable spike strips, and something labeled perimeter countermeasures that I haven't fully decoded yet. Zeke, propped up in a chair with his wounds freshly bandaged, studied the screen. The countermeasures are directional explosive charges buried at strategic points around the town, designed to look like old mining explosions, if investigated. Elena stared at him. How do you know that? Been watching this place for 3 years, Zeke replied grimly. Learning its secrets, waiting for a chance to shut it down. Can we use the explosives? Maya asked. Too risky, Zeke shook his head. They're as likely to collapse buildings as stop vehicles. Diego pointed to the camera showing the approaching SCOs. They're 5 minutes out. 3 vehicles, at least 8 men visible. What about Marco? Elena suddenly remembered. We left him at the doctor's office. I sedated him, Maya assured her. Sophia, who had been quiet throughout the preparations, spoke up from where she sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by papers. I found maps of the town in the library. There are tunnels connecting some of the buildings, old mining access routes. One runs from the mayor's house to the church. Zeke nodded approvingly. Smart girl. The cartel uses those tunnels to move bodies to the processing center without being visible from above. Can we use them to escape? Elena asked. Maybe, Zeke conceded. Diego's voice interrupted urgently. They're entering the town. They've split up. 2 vehicles continuing to the town center, one heading directly here. Zeke struggled to his feet. Get the children to the panic room, he told Elena. I'll hold them off as long as I can. No, Elena said firmly. We fight together or not at all. To demonstrate her point, she retrieved a shotgun from the gun cabinet in the study, apparently. The town's founder had believed in being well armed. Mom's right, Maya said. I've prepared chemical deterrents from supplies in the bathroom. Ammonia compounds that will cause severe respiratory distress if deployed in enclosed spaces. Diego held up what looked like a modified remote control. I've reconfigured the town's mesh network to create focused electromagnetic pulses. Won't stop bullets, but it will disable their communications and potentially any electronic weapon sites. Even Sophia had armed herself, clutching a small fire extinguisher. Spray it in their eyes, she explained with grim determination. Zeke looked at the family with newfound respect. You Castellanos are full of surprises. He turned to Diego. Show me those defensive barriers again. The teenager brought up the relevant controls on the laptop. They're road barriers that can be raised remotely. Solid steel, according to the specs. Raise the ones here and here, Zeke pointed. That'll force them to approach on foot through the main street. Diego executed the command, and on the camera feeds, they watched as heavy barricades rose from the ground, blocking the SUV's direct route to the mayor's house. "They're stopping," Diego reported. "Men getting out, armed with, those are military-grade weapons. Assault rifles, body armor. Professional hit team," Zeke confirmed. "Not just cartel soldiers. These will be former Special Forces mercenaries." Elena's determination wavered slightly at this news, but she steeled herself. "What's our plan? Divide and isolate," Zeke said. "They expect to find us cowering in the house. Instead, we set up ambush points and pick them off one by one." "We're not killers," Maya objected. "Tonight you are," Zeke replied bluntly. "Because they certainly are. But we can use non-lethal approaches first," Maya's chemicals, Diego's electronics, confusion tactics. Anything to even the odds. They quickly formulated a plan. Maya would deploy her chemical deterrents from second-floor windows. Diego would remain in the panic room with his laptop, controlling the town's systems and monitoring camera feeds. Sofia would stay with him, protected in the fortified space. Elena and Zeke would create diversions to separate the attackers, using their knowledge of the house to outmaneuver them. "One more thing," Zeke said. "If you get a clear shot, take it. These men won't hesitate to kill you all." The first team of attackers approached cautiously, using tactical formation to cover each other as they advanced up the mansion's front walk. Through an upstairs window, Elena watched them, 4 men moving with the practiced precision of military training. "They're at the front door," Diego's voice came through the walkie-talkie they'd found in a kitchen drawer. 3 more approaching from the rear garden. "The 8th man is staying with the vehicles." "Maya, now," Elena whispered into her own walkie-talkie. From a window directly above the front entrance, Maya dropped what looked like homemade smoke bombs, glass bottles containing chemical mixtures that shattered on impact. Noxious fumes immediately engulfed the men below, who recoiled, coughing violently and clawing at their burning eyes. Using the distraction, Zeke fired from his position at a side window, his first shot striking one attacker in the shoulder, causing him to drop his weapon. The others scattered, diving for cover behind garden statuary and ornamental bushes. "The rear team is breaching the kitchen door." Diego's voice crackled through the walkie-talkie. Elena raced downstairs, positioning herself at the end of the hallway leading from the kitchen. She heard the door splinter as the attackers forced their way in. When the first man appeared in the hallway, Elena fired the shotgun. She had aimed high deliberately, not wanting to kill. The blast struck the ceiling above the intruder, raining plaster and debris on him and forcing him back. "They're regrouping," Diego reported. "I see them," Zeke confirmed. "Elena, get upstairs. They're trying to flank us." She retreated up the service stairs at the back of the house, emerging on the second floor just as gunfire erupted below. The sound of breaking glass and splintering wood filled the air as the attackers began shooting at windows and doors. "They're trying to suppress us while they gain entry," Zeke said. Blood had soaked through his bandages, but his eyes remained alert and focused. "Maya," Elena called into the walkie-talkie. "I'm okay," her daughter replied. "In the master bedroom. I can see 3 of them in the garden below." "Diego, what about the town's fire suppression system?" Zeke asked suddenly. "Does it cover the exterior of the buildings?" "Checking," Diego replied. After a moment, "Yes, activate them," Zeke ordered. Seconds later, powerful jets of water erupted from the mansion's roofline, catching the attackers in the garden by surprise. The force staggered them, providing Elena with an opportunity to fire another warning shot from a bedroom window. The battle continued for nearly 20 minutes, a tense exchange of gunfire, tactical retreats, and clever uses of the house's features. Maya deployed more chemical deterrents. Diego remotely activated lights and machinery throughout the town, creating distractions. Zeke, despite his wounds, moved through the house like a ghost, appearing where least expected to fire precise shots that wounded rather than killed. Elena was reloading the shotgun when Diego's panicked voice came through the walkie-talkie. "Mom, they've found the tunnel entrance in the garden shed. 2 men heading into the tunnels. The tunnels lead directly to the panic room," Zeke realized aloud. Elena's blood ran cold. "Diego, Sofia, get out of the panic room now." "Where do we go?" Diego asked. "The library has a hidden passage behind the east bookcase," Zeke said quickly. "Pull the brass candlestick on the mantel. It leads to an Orza room above the mayor's office." "Going now?" Diego confirmed. Zeke turned to Elena. "We need to intercept those men in the tunnels. There's an entrance in the wine cellar." They hurried downstairs, avoiding the ongoing firefight between Maya and the attackers at the front of the house. The cellar entrance was hidden behind racks of dusty wine bottles, revealing a narrow passage hewn from the bedrock beneath the town. "Stay close," Zeke warned, "and step exactly where I step. There are pressure plates that trigger alarms." They moved as quickly as Zeke's injuries allowed, guided by the dim glow of emergency lights spaced at wide intervals. The tunnel branched several times, but Zeke navigated without hesitation, clearly familiar with the layout. "How do you know these tunnels so well?" "I mapped them while searching for Catherine and Annie," Zeke replied. "Found evidence they'd been brought through here to the processing center." Elena wanted to offer comfort but knew there were no words adequate for such loss. Instead, she focused on their mission, reaching Diego and Sofia before the attackers did. They had just reached a junction when they heard voices ahead. Men speaking rapid Spanish, their words echoing in the confined space. Zeke held up a hand for silence, then gestured for Elena to follow him down a side passage. They emerged in what appeared to be a maintenance alcove containing electrical panels. "This controls the tunnel lighting," Zeke whispered, pointing to one panel. "On my signal, flip that main switch." He positioned himself at the edge of the alcove, both revolvers drawn. Elena placed her hand on the switch, waiting. The voices grew louder as the men approached their position. Zeke nodded sharply, and Elena threw the switch, plunging the tunnels into absolute darkness. The attackers shouted in alarm and confusion. Zeke moved with uncanny precision despite the blackness, his familiarity with the tunnels allowing him to navigate by touch alone. Elena heard scuffling, grunts of pain, and the distinctive sound of Zeke's fist connecting with flesh. When she dared to flip the switch back on, Zeke stood over the 2 unconscious attackers. He had disarmed them without firing a shot, apparently unwilling to risk gunfire in the confined space of the tunnels. "Bind them," he directed, handing her zip ties he'd taken from one man's tactical vest. "Then we keep moving. The observation room isn't far." They secured the unconscious men and continued through the tunnels, eventually reaching a ladder that led upward to a trapdoor. Zeke climbed with difficulty, his wounds clearly causing him significant pain, but he refused Elena's offers of assistance. The trapdoor opened into a small hidden room above the mayor's office, exactly as Zeke had described. Diego and Sofia were waiting there, both visibly relieved to see their mother. "The men in the house are retreating," Diego reported, showing them his tablet where he had maintained access to the security cameras. Maya's chemicals drove them back, and they took heavy losses. 3 wounded, including the one Zeke shot earlier. "What about the 2 in the tunnels?" Sofia asked. "Taking a app," Zeke said. Elena checked the security feeds. "They're regrouping in their vehicles. Why would they retreat now?" Zeke's expression darkened. "Because they've called in their specialist." "What specialist?" Before Zeke could answer, Diego pointed to a new feed. "Someone's approaching the doctor's office where we left Marco." On the screen, they watched as a lone figure moved with fluid grace toward the building where the cartel cleaner remained restrained. Unlike the tactical team, this person wore no body armor or visible weapons, just a simple black outfit that allowed for maximum mobility. "That's Lucia Vega," Zeke said, "Marco's sister and the cartel's top extraction specialist. She's here to free her brother." "We have to stop her," Elena said. Too late, Diego pointed to the screen where Lucia had already entered the building. And she moves like a ghost. I barely saw her pick the lock. If she frees Marco, we're done, Zeke said flatly. He knows the town better than anyone except me, and he'll coordinate the next assault more effectively. Diego, Sofia, stay here. Don't open the door for anyone but Maya or us. She turned to Zeke. Can you make it back through the tunnels? Lead the way. They retraced their steps through the underground passages, moving as rapidly as Zeke's condition allowed. When they emerged from the wine cellar, they found Maya waiting for them, her medical bag clutched tightly. The attackers have withdrawn to a perimeter around the town, she reported. I think they're waiting for instructions. They're waiting for Marco, Elena explained. His sister is freeing him from the doctor's office. We need to stop them before they can coordinate another assault. The three of them slipped out the back door of the mansion, using the buildings for cover as they made their way toward the doctor's office. The town was eerily silent, the earlier gunfire replaced by a tense, watchful quiet. They were a block away when they heard a commotion from the direction of their destination, shouting. Then a single gunshot. Move, Zeke urged. They rounded the corner to see Marco Vega standing in the street outside the doctor's office, supported by his sister Lucia. A body lay on the ground nearby, one of Marco's own men apparently shot for some failure. Marco looked up as they appeared, his expression shifting from surprise to cold calculation. Despite his injured shoulder and sedated state, his eyes were alert and dangerous. Dr. Castellanos, he called. I underestimated your family's resourcefulness, a rare professional error on my part. Zeke raised his revolvers, but Lucia moved with blinding speed, placing herself between them and her brother, a slender blade appearing in her hand. Sheriff Morrison, Marco continued, still seeking vengeance for Catherine and Annie? How disappointing that you've learned nothing from their example. The only thing I learned, Zeke replied, is that I should have killed you 3 years ago when I had the chance. Perhaps, but sentiment stayed in your hand then, as I believe it will now. His gaze shifted to Elena and Maya. You won't risk these women's lives in a firefight, will you? Not when my sister can reach them before your ancient revolvers fire a second shot. He was right, Elena realized. Lucia's coiled stance suggested exceptional combat training, and the knife in her hand would find a target in the seconds it would take Zeke to adjust his aim. What do you want, Marco? Elena asked. Your men are wounded. Your operation is exposed. Even if you kill us, this place is compromised. Quite true, Marco acknowledged. Perdition Valley's usefulness is at an end. But my mission regarding you and your family remains incomplete. Victor was most explicit about leaving no loose ends. Victor is the loose end, Elena countered. My evidence is secure with my lawyer. Kill me, and it all goes public. Ah yes, Mr. Langley in Phoenix. Marco's smile widened slightly. Who suffered an unfortunate home invasion 3 hours ago. His files have been secured, including your so-called dead man's switch. You're lying, she challenged, though without conviction. Believe what you wish, Marco shrugged. It changes nothing. You and your children will still be processed according to protocol, perhaps with some additional experimental phases, given the trouble you've caused. Maya stepped forward suddenly. You're in no condition to process anyone. That shoulder wound needs proper treatment, and the sedative I gave you is still in your system. You can barely stand without your sister's support. Medical knowledge. Useful. Perhaps you could serve the organization after all, young lady. I'd rather die. That remains an option. Elena's mind raced, searching for any advantage or distraction. The standoff continued, neither side willing to make the first move that would trigger violence. It came from an unexpected source, from the shadows between buildings. A small voice called out, Mom, Maya. Sophia stood 20 feet away, having somehow left the observation room and followed them. Sophia, run, Elena screamed, but it was too late. Lower your weapons, Marco ordered. Zeke reluctantly lowered his revolvers. "Now, kick them away," Marco directed. Lucia moved like liquid lightning, crossing the distance to grab Sophia before anyone could react. The knife flashed to the girl's throat, pressing just hard enough to draw a thin line of blood. Elena placed the shotgun on the ground with shaking hands. "And Dr. Castellanos, call your son. Tell him to surrender himself at the town hall. No heroics with his electronic toys." Elena had no choice. With Sophia's life hanging by a thread, she took out the walkie-talkie. "Diego, they have Sophia. Please come to the town hall. Don't try anything." Marco smiled in satisfaction. Family. Such a reliable weakness. He gestured to his sister. "Bring the girl. We'll use the church facilities. It's time to conclude this operation properly." As Lucia forced Sophia forward, still holding the knife at her throat, Elena saw her youngest daughter's eyes, not filled with terror as expected, but with a strange, focused determination. Sophia's hand moved slightly toward her jacket pocket. Before Elena could decipher what her daughter intended, chaos erupted from multiple directions at once. The walkie-talkie in Elena's hand suddenly emitted a piercing electronic shriek, making everyone flinch. In that same moment, Sophia drove her elbow backward into Lucia's stomach, with surprising force for a 12-year-old, simultaneously flinging something from her pocket into the woman's face. Lucia screamed, releasing Sophia as she clawed at her eyes. Fine pepper powder, stolen from the kitchen during their preparations, temporarily blinded the deadly assassin. Zeke seized the opportunity, drawing his revolvers with blinding speed. 2 shots rang out, striking Marco in his good arm and leg, dropping him to the ground. From the rooftops around them, floodlights suddenly blazed to life, bathing the street in harsh illumination. Diego's voice boomed from speakers throughout the town. "Attention cartel forces! This area is surrounded by federal agents. Lay down your weapons and surrender immediately." It was a bluff, of course. There were no federal agents. But the theatrical flourish, combined with the strategic use of the town's PA system and lighting, created enough confusion to shift the balance of power. Elena grabbed Sophia, pulling her to safety as Maya tackled Lucia with unexpected ferocity, driving the still-blinded assassin to the ground. The young medical student jabbed a syringe into Lucia's thigh, another dose of the sedative she had used on Marco earlier. Within seconds, the cartel cleaner and his sister were both subdued. Marco bleeding from fresh wounds, Lucia rapidly losing consciousness from the powerful sedative. "Diego, where are you?" Elena called into the walkie-talkie. "Still in the observation room," he replied. "I never left. That was a recording I prepared just in case." The shriek was an improvised sonic weapon. It temporarily disrupts the inner ear. "Are you okay? Is Sophia safe?" "I'm fine," Sophia answered, taking the walkie-talkie from her mother. "I slipped out through a hidden panel Diego found. We figured they'd expect you to protect me, so we could surprise them." "You could have been killed," Elena said. "She was brilliant," Zeke said, with genuine admiration in his voice as he kept his revolvers trained on the subdued cartel operatives. "The pepper powder was inspired. I found it in the kitchen when we were preparing," Sophia explained. Marco, despite his wounds, managed a cold laugh. "Impressive improvisation, truly. But it changes nothing. My men still surround this town. You have nowhere to go, and reinforcements will arrive by morning." "Maybe," Zeke acknowledged. "Or maybe we've been busy while you were taking your sedative-induced nap." He nodded to Elena, who activated the walkie-talkie again. "Diego, show them what you've been working on." The town's PA system crackled again, but this time what emerged wasn't Diego's voice. It was recordings of Marco and his sister discussing cartel operations, details of processing victims, and explicit mentions of Victor Castellanos' involvement in both money laundering and the experimental drug program. 30 minutes of your greatest hits," Diego's voice explained when the recordings paused. "Captured by the town's security system and edited for clarity. I've been broadcasting this on all emergency frequencies for the past hour, along with our GPS coordinates. Every law enforcement agency within 300 miles has heard it by now. Marco's face, usually impassive, showed genuine shock. You're bluffing. He's not, Maya confirmed. The broadcast was picked up by a local radio station. It's already hitting national news sites. Cartel execution site discovered in Nevada ghost town. Your operational security has been compromised on every level. Victor will disavow all knowledge. The organization will claim I went rogue. Probably Zeke agreed. That's how cartels work. But the evidence in this town, the processing center, the records, the chemical labs, that's all physical proof that can't be erased. And Victor's signature is on too many documents for him to escape scrutiny. Elena knelt beside Marco, maintaining a safe distance, but wanting to see his eyes. It's over, Marco. The town of the dead has given up its secrets. Marco met her gaze. You Castellanos are indeed full of surprises. I should have processed you immediately rather than indulging in conversation. Professional courtesy was your downfall, Zeke noted. The distant sound of helicopter rotors cut through the night air, growing steadily louder. That will be the FBI hostage rescue team from Las Vegas, Diego announced through the walkie-talkie. They confirmed deployment 15 minutes ago. ETA takes 2 minutes to land in the town square. Your men have already begun retreating, Maya added. Diego's been monitoring the perimeter cameras. They scattered when the broadcasts began. Well played, Dr. Castellanos. It seems Perdition Valley has claimed its final victims. Not you and your children, but me and the operation I've maintained here for 5 years. Justice, not victimhood, Zeke corrected. This town will finally have justice for all the souls processed here, including Catherine and Annie. The helicopter noise grew deafening as the aircraft appeared overhead, spotlights sweeping the town as it prepared to land. Additional choppers could be seen approaching in the distance. One last thing, Elena said to Marco, Project Chimera, where are the research files? In the last place anyone would look, Dr. Castellanos. They're in your possession now, along with everything else in Perdition Valley. Before she could press for clarification, FBI agents surrounded them, weapons trained on Marco and his unconscious sister. The night erupted into controlled chaos as law enforcement secured the town, medical personnel treated the wounded, and evidence teams began processing what would soon become one of the largest crime scenes in Nevada history. 6 months later, Elena Castellanos stood on the porch of the mayor's mansion, watching as the morning sun illuminated Perdition Valley. FBI evidence teams had spent weeks documenting the horrors hidden beneath the church and throughout the tunnel system. The town had transformed dramatically in the half-year since that fateful night, no longer a ghost town or a cartel killing ground, but a bustling center of activity with a new purpose. The body count would never be known precisely, but forensic anthropologists had identified remains of at least 67 individuals processed in the facility over the 5 years of its operation. Marco Vega and his sister Lucia were in federal custody, both facing multiple life sentences without possibility of parole. Victor Castellanos had been arrested at his estate in Scottsdale, attempting to flee the country when news of Perdition Valley broke. Their cooperation had led to the arrest of dozens of cartel associates throughout the Southwest, including 7 corrupted federal agents who had helped conceal the operation. His trial was scheduled to begin next month, with Elena as the star witness. The evidence recovered from the town, including detailed records of his involvement in both money laundering and Project Chimera, had destroyed any chance of him claiming ignorance or distance from the cartel's operations. Most significantly for Elena, her children had not only survived, but grown stronger through the ordeal. At 18, she had deferred her college applications to work alongside the forensic team, gaining experience that would make her medical school applications exceptional. Maya approached now, dressed in scrubs after her night shift in what had once been the cartel's medical facility, and was now a fully accredited forensic laboratory. "Morning, Mom," she said. "The last of the identified remains are being returned to families today. Dr. Winters says we've made more progress in victim identification than she expected." Elena nodded. "You've done amazing work, sweetheart. Those families finally have answers because of you. Because of all of us," Maya corrected. The FBI's cyber division had created a special internship for him after witnessing his skills during the investigation. Diego emerged from the house, laptop under his arm as always. At 17, he had grown taller in the past 6 months, his former teenage awkwardness replaced by quiet confidence. "The new security protocols are online," he reported, "and I've finished the virtual reconstruction of the processing facility for the prosecution. They'll be able to show the jury exactly how the operation worked without bringing them here." Elena smiled proudly. The U.S. attorney called it the most comprehensive digital evidence package she's ever seen. From the edge of town came the sound of hoofbeats. Sophia appeared, riding a chestnut mare, her riding skills having improved dramatically under Zeke's tutelage. At 13, she had taken charge of the small stable of horses now used by law enforcement to patrol the more rugged areas surrounding the valley. "Zeke's bringing the trainees up the North Ridge," she called as she dismounted. "He says they need to learn the old smuggling trails if they're going to be effective." Ezekiel Morrison had undergone the most remarkable transformation of all. After recovering from his wounds, he had been reinstated as a sheriff at the personal request of the FBI director. Now he oversees Perdition Valley Justice Center, a training facility for law enforcement specializing in cartel operations and rural tactical response. The town itself had been repurposed entirely. The doctor's office served as both a forensic lab and medical facility for the staff now living on site. The general store functioned as a commissary. The church, cleansed of its gruesome basement facility, had been rededicated as a memorial to those who had died there. Most poignantly, many of the residential buildings now housed families of cartel victims, people who had lost loved ones to the organization and needed both protection and healing. Elena had established a foundation using assets seized from Victor's hidden accounts, providing counseling, security, and community for those most devastated by cartel violence. Zeke appeared at the edge of town, leading a group of trainees on horseback. Despite the badge now pinned to his chest, he still wore his weathered duster and twin Colts, a living legend embracing a second chance at justice. "Morrison Cleanup Crew," Diego joked, using the nickname the trainees had given themselves. Zeke's reputation as the gunslinger who helped bring down a cartel cleaning operation had made him something of a folk hero among law enforcement. As Zeke approached the mansion, Elena noticed he wasn't alone. Beside him rode a slight figure on a dappled gray horse, a young woman with dark hair who bore a striking resemblance to the girl in the photograph they had found 6 months earlier. "Is that?" Elena began, unable to complete the question. Maya nodded. "Annie Morrison. They found her last month in a cartel compound in Sonora. The Chimera drugs had been used on her extensively. She had no memory of her life before the cartel took her." "But she's recovering?" Elena asked. "Slowly," Diego confirmed. "The memory manipulation isn't permanent, but it takes time to break down. I've been helping her with cognitive reconstruction using family photos and videos. Dad's different with her around," Sophia added casually, having long since started referring to Zeke as a father figure. Elena watched as Zeke dismounted with fluid grace that belied his age and injuries, helping his daughter down from her horse. The pain was still visible in his eyes, but now tempered with something that had been absent before: hope. "They're coming for dinner," Sophia informed them. "I told Zeke you were making your famous paella." "You did you?" Elena ruffled her youngest daughter's hair. "Then I suppose I'd better start cooking." As her children dispersed to their various tasks, Elena remained on the porch a moment longer, taking in the transformed town. The buildings were the same, Victorian structures standing proud against the desert backdrop, but their purpose had been completely reimagined. Where once death and darkness had reigned, now healing and justice prevailed. The mayor's mansion had become a home again, not just for her family, but for all who sought refuge and renewal in Perdition Valley. The town that had belonged to the dead now served the living. That evening, the mansion's dining room hosted a gathering that would have been unimaginable 6 months earlier. Elena and her children sat alongside Zeke and his recovering daughter. Several FBI agents who had become friends during the investigation joined them, along with 2 families currently staying in the rehabilitation housing. As Elena served her pala, a recipe inherited from her Spanish grandmother, conversations flowed easily around the table. Maya discussed forensic techniques with the FBI laboratory liaison. Diego debated encryption protocols with the cyber division representative. Sophia regaled everyone with tales of the horses she was training, while Annie Morrison listened with shy interest, occasionally contributing when horse-related memories surfaced from before her abduction. Zeke, more relaxed than Elena had ever seen him, caught her eye across the table and raised his glass in a silent toast. She returned the gesture, acknowledging all they had endured and overcome together. After dinner, as the desert sky exploded with stars visible only in places far from city lights, Elena found herself alone on the porch with Zeke. They sat in comfortable silence for several minutes, watching the lights of the town, no longer eerily maintained in false abandonment, but genuinely alive with purpose. "I never thanked you properly," Elena said finally. Zeke shrugged slightly. "You gave me a reason to finish what I started 3 years ago. Watching wasn't enough anymore." "Annie seems he's be improving every day," Zeke confirmed. "The doctors say it's remarkable, given what was done to her. Her memory might never be complete, but she remembers enough, more than I dared hope." "And Catherine?" "They found defend evidence to confirm what happened to her. At least now I can bury her properly." He was silent for a moment before adding, "She would have liked you, I think, and your kids. High praise. Well earned." Zeke gazed out at the town. "You know, when I warned you that Perdition Valley belonged to the dead, I never imagined you'd reclaim it for the living. We reclaimed it together." The sound of laughter drifted from inside the house, the mingled voices of their children and guests creating a tapestry of normal life that had once seemed impossible in this place. "What happens next?" Zeke asked. "After Victor's trial, I mean, will you stay?" "Yes," she decided. "Perdition Valley needs us, and I think we need it too." Zeke nodded. "Some places get under your skin, become part of who you are." "This town has a second chance," Elena said. In the distance, the church bell tolled 9 times, a sound that had been silent for decades, until they restored it as a symbol of the town's rebirth. Each evening at 9, it rang in remembrance of those who had perished here, and in celebration of the new life that had taken root. "You know," Zeke said, "the original settlers named this place Perdition Valley because they believed it was a place of judgment, where souls were tested and either redeemed or condemned. Then they named it well," Elena replied. "It tested us all and found us equal to the challenge." From inside came Diego's voice, calling them to join the others for dessert. Elena stood, offering her hand to Zeke in a gesture that bridged their journey from wary strangers to trusted allies. Perdition Valley had indeed belonged to the dead, but now, at last, it belonged to the living who had reclaimed it in the name of justice.